Alrighty, testing, testing. Cool, 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 cool. So I'm gonna set up real quick for some programming related to mathematics. We have actually something that I started not too long ago. Some little setup process. Give me a moment. My tablet's becoming acting like a fool right now. I don't know why that's happening. All right. Well, it's a good place to start, right? I'm gonna leave the pieces that we have here for the very first 15% of every programming language. And again, I try to generalize the idea. We're going to go over in this stream based on request. Somebody in chat was wanting to go over more kind of brain uh brain activating, get the cells working, um, on how we can be better programmers while understanding mathematics. That's not to say that you have to be like this huge mathematician to do programming, right? You don't have to. Um, Programming can be very linear and based. You don't have to go through a lot of certain things. Variables, I mean, you don't even have to use any of these 15%. You can kind of go straight to the 85, but you're going to have a harder time organizing and making things efficient, which can make duplicates in your code, making the file bigger. You'll probably be doing the same things multiple times. And we're kind of thinking like assembly language. Assembly language, for every line we run, we had to basically repeat the same things we wanted to do until we started creating more function-based uh, organization. And of course, that brings us to functions, right? Variables, functions. We've got loop or, well, decision control, logic, looping, and objects. And that's basically it. And then for the 85%, well, it's going to be basically the API of your choice, which basically deals with, are you a game dev? Are you a data analyst? Oh, are you a web developer? And anything in between, right? Application developer, so apps, you can go into drivers, all of these subcategories all fall in the 85%, the next steps of what your interests are as a programmer. So, this video pertains to basically anyone that wants to expand into larger sets of coding, which once you get this part, well, you can choose the language of your choice, really, which there's so many languages out there that it kind of start to be a bit more flexible with, um, oh, well, I'm not even on here right now. Hold on. I forgot my camera. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy, buddy. Where am I at? Hold on. Where's my camera? Da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh my goodness. There it is. Hold on. Activate. Oh, hey, what's up with me? What am I doing here? Hold on a second. This is the wrong scene, ain't it? Nope. Kinda. Let me see. That was a weird one. Ah, great, great, great. Oh, it's not where I want myself. Hold on. I'm having technical difficulties here. I mean, that's close enough, right? You can see my face. Hold on. Oh, what are you doing here, though? That's not where my original scene was. Hmm. Okay, well, let me kind of move my. Oh, wait, that's the J5. Never mind. That's the wrong camera. Ooh, ooh, there. That's the one. Okay. Kind of. I mean, good enough, I suppose. Eh, mask? No. Let me get the other one. Yeah, it's gonna take a moment. I'm just chilling for a second, just kind of starting it off here, putting some info on the board so you can kind of absorb it while I set up and while I go get my coffee, because I'm obviously going to need more after I figure out where in the world my Camera went. Something changed on my OBS, and I can't put my finger on it. Huh? What? Who? Oh my God. I hate computers, and I love them, but I hate them. There's actually no love there. It's just kind of a functional relationship. Oh, all right. Give me a moment. Absorb the things on the board here. Video capture. This. I want my Nexigoo transparency. And that's gonna pop up somewhere that I don't want to pop up. Oh, there it is. Oh my goodness. Look at my face. It's huge. Hold on. Oh, what? Huh? 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 Wait. Where are you? Oh, in front of my face. That's where you were. You were literally in front of my face. Oh, well, maybe you're here to learn, and maybe life is trying to tell you, hey, we're about to go into some self-development. But welcome in. I'm glad to have you. You do programming? Are you here because of programming? But you know what? We can waste our time on a lot of different streams on the internet, but at some point we got to get a little developmental. I can't say this would be a waste of your time. This will be definitely more of a golden nugget of information. Uh, I am still setting up, so excuse for the lag. Yes, Divine, welcome in. Nice to see you. Or see your text or something. I don't know. Anyway, did you program? Are you here because of programming? I'm not sure. I'm not sure why. Let's deduct that idea. Nice to see you. Oh, hold on. Let me get my coffee though. Yeah, I do pharmacy. Well, heck, if you do any calculations, you can make programs that'll basically do them for you and don't have to do any extra work on the end. But anyway, uh, honestly, dude, or girl, I'm not sure. Chat. I suppose that's why we use chat. Um, you can kind of work programming into anything, as long as you know how. And actually, let me show you how to get started. We need basically a little work environment because I'm going to be doing some code and also going through a little bit more of whiteboard uh, diagramming and detailing because we're going to go into kind of functions. But if you remember functions, then you already know how to code. It's just not the math version of it. We're doing the code version of it. So, a little coffee and honey. I don't know if you like honey, but I hate sugar and I replace all my sugars with honey. So we need an environment to work with. I'm assuming you don't know where to start in the case of programming, so there's two ways you can start. You can start with a specialized, wait, hold on. No, that's not where my keyboard should be. Keyboard should be right here. A specialized program like Visual Studio Code, or you can even just start with like a notepad and you become a programmer just like that. That's it. With the notepad, I'm gonna do really focus on basically HTML and JavaScript. It's the easiest. There's no technical incentive. You don't have to set up and install anything. If you have a browser, Firefox, Chrome, whatever, Internet Explorer, I don't know why you would be using that, or Safari. It's the same thing, different company. But you can start coding right away. And here's kind of how to start it off. So I'm going to do a little zoom here so we can get that a bit better on focus. Control plus, right? Control plus. Give me that plus. Give me that control. There we go. All right. So every single web page, because it is a page, it's a document, just like any other document that you would normally do, uh, yeah, begins with these two tags. We basically tell the computer, hey, this is going to be an HTML document. That's it. That's how we start it. Meaning that we're going to be using tags to basically put things together. And from the tags, the computer already knows a couple of keywords here. The first one is head to get that started, and body. Hey, you're in pharmacy. You should know something about where that comes from. Programming comes from human beings. So do we base human being concepts on code? Absolutely, we do. So the head is basically the control unit. We think we don't have a lot of visual aspects to the inside of our head. So think of it like a settings, right? The characteristics of your page. This is basically the same steps you would use to create a web page, an actual home page for whatever you do. We can make a web page or we can make a local computer program like this. It really depends on how far and what you use. But taking these steps so far, all we have is just a blank HTML document. Every single page, for instance, let us go to YouTube or something. Yeah, YouTube sounds fine. And then we right click and any page you go to, you right click. If you forget how to start a web page, right click on the page, go to inspect, and you'll have this little window pop up with the code. Don't get confused. Just go to the very top, close body, and voila. Head, body. Hold on. Can I zoom in here? Yep, there we go. Oh, buddy. Hold on. Head, HTML. There's our HTML. Head, head, and body. The rest is up to you on what you put together in that page specifically, whether it's visual design or mechanical back-end programming. And that's really where the split becomes between designers of a web page and a back-end mathematical. You don't have to be a mathematician to basically know programming, but there is a logical incentive of knowing how to combine things in a certain way to make things efficient for you. So here, there's basically YouTube in its glory, an HTML tag. We call these tags that are between the less than, greater than signs, the head and the body. The body is what we put our clothes on. So it is literally everything visually specific. So in the end, the head is where we do some setups, the default colors, the font size, yada, yada, yada. We won't be doing much of there because we're doing a little bit more of the logical programming aspect. I'll probably do another one for actual web development. I see I only opened this on YouTube accidentally. Well, there you go. I mean, when it happens by accident, now you know. Here's a couple of things you can do here. If you go to console, this is where we're basically using JavaScript, the main brain of the browser. And you can do basically stuff like put in the keyword alert, hello world. And this is a built-in function. When I do that, I get a little pop-up that says hello world. This is how you take control of websites. Now, you don't really take control of YouTube servers because they copy all the files to your computer and then you're running them locally. And when I refresh, it basically resets based on the files that are on the server. So any changes you make here are just kind of personal on your browser, on your specific browser. But this is our focus. This is where we're going to build ourselves towards, where we have control over the browser and its abilities. Coffee. All right. And basically just an extra step at this point. We're almost there. Now, the best thing to do when you get to this point, save your file. It's saving. Saving is important, especially as you keep going, going, and going, and going. Let me do a little stream here. I do tutoring in a general sense, programming, mathematics, and all kind of stuff. I actually have a what was it? Dentist administration test assistants. I have a student going into dentistry and she's having issues with mathematics, so she's one of my students currently. Actually, hold on, hold on, hold on. All right, she's coming up later. I have to check that. 2 o'clock. All right, I got time. Just gotta make sure I'm not gonna accidentally uh Forget about my student. But okay, so we save this file. Normally we save it as like index.html. I'm just gonna save it as stream1.html because I'm gonna organize my brain a little bit with the naming convention. I probably go for different stream processes. Hey, appreciate it. Yeah, I get that sometimes, but when you do math and programming, you gotta have something to be a little bit entertaining. You can't just be like, oh man. I mean, I've worked with professors at University of Central Florida, and you gotta have character to keep attention. Otherwise, you're just kind of like repeating a PowerPoint, and well, that's not fun, is it? I don't think so. So we save the file, but we do want to open it. And there's two ways to open any file specifically. So I'm going to go back to my tutoring folder, go to my stream where I have my code, and anytime, I don't know if you're on a Mac or on a PC, but if you right click, you have options with open with on the Windows PC, which means you can open with any application. We're going to be specifically using a browser because we're building a simple page for a browser. But you can also open it in text. So remember that even though it's a kind of double click opens up in our browser situation, it doesn't mean we can't right click, open with, and then find our notepad. But we already have it open, but here's the second instance of that same notepad. So there's files that can open up in different ways. Look, I know, I know. Oh my God, let's talk about bad teachers real quick. Um, you know when the teacher matches the name? Like, I had a very, very bland, boring, horrid high school teacher. She almost ruined math for me. Absolutely almost ruined it. And it's ironic that her way of boring, horrible, critical, just her name was Miss Door. Door. The thing you go through to get to the classroom that you're about to suffer in. Her character was just as intuitive as her last name. And it kind of like destroyed my. Ah, what's up? Hey, Midnight, how you doing? Welcome in. Miss Door almost ruined any sort of. I had a knack for it in the beginning. My grandmother was an architect, and my mom was always like, "Man, you're doing so good at math, you're gonna be like your grandmother." And at one point, I wanted to be an architect until I realized as growing up, wait a minute, everyone wants to be an architect. There's not gonna be enough jobs because there's so many people that want to be that. So I was like, all right, I'm still good at math. There's still plenty of options. Hey, Tetsu, what's up? Um, so, oh my God. So this teacher, Miss Door, she basically ruined math for me. I actually did not, I was getting A's all the way through. I think it was Algebra 2, and then it just all fell apart. So yeah, bad teachers exist, man. And don't let that, like, don't let bad teachers ruin you from a good skill. That's my best advice I can give you. People should not ruin your life. You should ruin your life. You should have your own chances of ruining your life, but that's where we have our own control over our own life. You have to have a little bit of self-control sometimes. But don't let other people do that. If anything happens, there's always ways around it. You can always find different methods to get your thing. But then I had another teacher. I think he was German or something, but he was still in Florida in my high school, Mr. Puffingstag. And as weird as his last name was, it was just as weird when you walk into his class playing music to teach us math. Like, I kind of got that contrast in two different types. That's why ChatGPT will ruin the kids of the future. I mean, it depends on how you use it, right? I like AI. We got no one to be mad. We can be mad at ChatGPT and the developers, right? Um, but in the end, it's more like if you use ChatGPT to fill the rest of your submission to whatever you're trying to do, and you're not even glossing or looking over whatever ChatGPT did, and you're just doing a copy and paste, you might as well just use a calculator for the rest of your life because you're never going to do math, right? I always make my students not do calculators. I show them all the tricks of the trade and how to do mental math. And basically, I had a student for 2 years. He kind of had like a little trouble starting it off because like 15 minutes in, he was doing not so good in class. So 15 minutes in our session, like normally an hour, right? He would just get fatigued. Like I guess he would think so much that his brain just stops functioning. So we, kind of did like 30-minute sessions, trying to get him up to that 30-minute mark. I really do think of it like weightlifting. Like your muscles are a brain. So in a way, when you lift more math, your brain starts to make new connections, right? And then you can do it better and better. But it's the case of like when you get that fatigue, rest. So I gave him that 30-minute session. Is it true that there will be two type of people, ones that memorize rules and second who understand why and how those math rules work? Is it true that there are two types of people? Yeah, 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 yeah. And okay, on a sense, there's a difference between memorizing equations and understanding equations. Because you can open up a book, go to the y equals mx plus b, and be like, all right, I know the letters, cool. But in a way, yeah. Don't yeah, that's just like literally going to the gym with the brain fog, going to the gym, working out, and then having your muscles tired. Take a rest. Like don't that's why like when I see students doing like 24-hour study sessions before a test, I'm like, man, I see your dedication, but you should have spread that out over time because you're gonna get effed. I don't want to curse yet because I think YouTube is still on like the first scanning level of like what kind of stream is this? I'll probably start cursing later. Mm, so don't let that get in the way. Just rest it up, go back into it. Give yourself some time in between. But the two types of people, it's not even just two types of people. Every language has two forms, two mm, attributes. Vocabulary, words that we have on paper that we use over and over, back in English literature 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Here's a set of 10 words for the week. You know your drill. Repeat them over and over on paper. Show me 10 times that you wrote them so you know how to spell them. Use each word in the sentence, blah, 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 blah. Vocabulary. But you can learn a dictionary from the front to the end. And if you don't know how to like combine those words together, you're just going to be a mess of like, it'd be no different than a bunch of monkeys typing on a typewriter, right? So the next attribute is grammar, how to put things together to make sense. And that's the next step. When you are in math, yeah, you can open up a book, go to the equation, memorize it. That's the vocabulary. But if you don't have a good grammar in the case of how to use those little bits and pieces in the equation, which is basically algebra. That's why algebra is so important that when I was helping students way back in like Valencia College and University of Central Florida, it would be calculus students, it would be trig students, statistics, physics with applied calculus. All of them just thought that that class was hard. But when we sat down and we worked out the problem, I literally found stuff back from like algebra 1 and 2 that they didn't get. And it could probably be because of a bad teacher that just gave them a bad time and they just did not absorb that lesson from that time. This is why like mathematics is cumulative. This is where you take the past experiences and then upgrade them with the new experiences. But if your past is missing, you kind of be tripping over yourself with like negatives. Oh, negatives are a big thing for a lot of people, right? Being able to essentially do negatives, multiplying them and moving them around and having parentheses and exponents all over the place. If you're not good with how it was in the past, you're going to struggle with it in the future. So most of these high math students were struggling with algebra and they didn't even know it. They thought it was the calculus that was hard or the trig that was hard. When you open up a calc book, that's just vocabulary. A trig book, that's also just vocabulary. Based on what you're going to be learning, based on what you want your profession to be, you're going to basically open up a specific book of vocabulary. All of them have algebra in mind. So we're kind of working with that, right? All right. All right. I hope that wasn't too insanely boring because I know I'm trying to make math entertaining, but like Divine said, it is math, right? What are you doing here? Anyway, so I'm gonna basically make a little workspace here. Any page, any text file. I want to make it better. Again, I can make the whole program in a notebook, notepad, but I'm just going to open up my little Visual Studio Code and just drag over that file and then open it up. And because I'm creating the file, very valuable content. In a whole YouTube universe that's becoming slop, and AI generated, you know, find the valuable content. It's going to be more and more difficult to sift through all the AI generated thumbnails. So find those valuable creators that actually want to like give and upload information to you to better you. Not just to kind of like take your time and show you a bunch of AI generated slop. Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. I don't like to toot my own horn, but I'm all right. Uh, okay. The body is where we're going to do most of our work. Okay. I'm going to close this down because we don't need this either. I like Visual Studio Code. It actually grew on me after a while. I used to use code blocks and Atom and all of these other basically text editors with a fancy color. Um, but I really got to like Visual Studio because one, it's super light, it opens up quick, it doesn't lag. Two, it's got extensions for all kinds of different languages, including an Excel viewer. So when you're doing like a language that modifies Excel files, you can open up Excel files in here. I don't know if you can edit them, but at least you can view them. So in a way, it's almost like you have Excel built into your coder. So there's a bunch of cool little tools you can use from here. Ugh. Okay. Anyway, back to the deal. We want to, and this is the page, right? This is the exact same page here in code, but it's blank because I haven't put any text. So hello, chat, right? Bada bing. Now it's really tiny and I'm at 100%. So here's a couple of things we can do, right? The first thing I can do is give this a H1 tag, which is like a heading in a document. If you've done a Microsoft Word document, you're basically doing the same thing here, making the text as a header. Of course, we're editing a document, literally the code of what you would consider a Microsoft Word document. We can even do tables like Excel. It's all based on the raw code, so we can create whatever we want from this HTML document. In fact, if you technically open up, let me see if I have, let me see, hold on. If I do window, Word, where my Word at? There we go. If I do Word and I create a blank document, this is a test, and I save this sucker back into that uh PC PC browse. I hate how they keep changing the interface of this thing. That's why I don't use it so much. Then I go to tutoring, go to the stream, and then just saved it as test.x, and I save that sucker there. Well, I lost my window for the files, but I can open it back up by right-clicking on the tab for my code. In fact, let me clean this up a bit. So my stream1 HTML file, right-click, reveal, and explore. And I can open this up here. Oh, it's not going to show me. Open anyway. Text editor. Oh, it's compiled. Yeah, I had a feeling it might do something like this, but it is essentially, look, it's similar. Look at the ending here. You've got some little tiny bits and pieces of readable text. The rest is kind of like formatted proprietary Windows, Microsoft, corporate style. So you're not going to be able to decrypt it, but that's kind of the idea. You can't really create your own XML or documents from text like this because you've got symbols and things that are kind of encrypted as proprietary. But that's the idea, is what we just saw is basically us modifying a custom file, but it's an HTML. And we still, again, have the ability to create tables and all that kind of stuff. Now, this is for designers or just creating content on a website. The space in the body, at least. We can then go into the head. Here's kind of how that works. This is where, again, the head is not so much what we see physically, it's more like the brain functionality. So there's this nice tag called style, where now here I can say, hey, change my H1 real quick and give it a font size of 200%. Yeah, you're not gonna do it? Is it not? I think I have to use a different local keyword. Hold on. Okay, 500%. All right, fine. What about 1,500%? There we go. So there you go. And that changes the modification. So again, this is kind of like the setup, just like we all kind of have a default DNA setup in our brain that we function and act a certain way. The style up in the headspace is basically how we set up what the page should kind of use for default. Then I like to consider the body section more like a skeletal definition, where we can actually show the visual aspects of that page in whatever order we want. Now, to keep in mind, programs always read from line 1 down to 13, very linear, right? So it reads the style first, saves that in memory, says, okay, you want this H1 to be 1500%. Cool. There's H1, boom. Second. So line 5 affects line 11, but cannot have this backwards. You cannot have line 10 affect line 4, right? Linear, one directional. Anyway, that's kind of the basis of web design, the super basics of web design. We can go even further into the designing and all the images we can import and create a nice flashy website, which can be done for the future. But we're interested in the brain. And this is, whoa, hold on. Skripot? What did I just do? That's not what I want to do. All right, there's the brain. It's the script section. Now, when we went to that inspect, then we went to console and we typed in alert, hello chat. Ugh, why do I keep putting a W at the end of hello? I think it's because of hello world. We have that ability to manifest those little annoying pop-ups that some websites that if they pop this up to you, you're like, holy crap, get me out of here. It's probably something that's trying to affect my computer. Virus, right? We should, maybe back in 2020 or before, but lately it's been better. But this is a great way to pass information to ourselves to the page. There's a couple of ways we can do that, but that's a great way to kind of get that started. And the second case is now we can do this alert here. The case here, though, is we're not activating it when we press enter. We're activating it every single time the page refreshes. So only once, right? There it is. And that's basically where we begin the process. Now, I wanted, hold on, to go through a little bit more of the mathematics of it, right? So we're going to be talking a little bit more about functions because I do have some videos in the past that I've done based on like how do you make a basic sort of web page and modify some functions and what the like the beginning 15%. So we're going to be really looking at this side of the spectrum, the 15%, plus a little bit more of this comparison here. If you know what a variable is in math, it's the same thing in programming. We can use X, we can use Y. Again, the definitions or the vocabulary of many math books will tell us, hey, remember Y equals mx plus b. Remember Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. I'm probably causing some trauma for some of you out there right now. Remember Y equals aab to the x power. Please don't leave. This is just math. I'm just trying to show you the things that we have. But these variables are just kind of standardized based on nothing. They just all agree to say, hey, x comma y, right? Cool. You like XY? Yeah, you like XY? Okay, cool. Like the Spider-Man meme. Everyone likes XY. And of course, this is based on the XY axis, right? So there's a standard here. However, in programming, our variables are whatever we want. Oh, that's from another student there. We can name them, is what I want to say. Anything we want. We can name them X if we just like that way of naming. We can just say a single letter X value. We can name it num_x to be a little bit more specific, number X. Or hair color if we're creating a game. Or player 1, player 2, damage, health. The variables are kind of ours to create, right? And in programming, we're basically doing that little, hey, are we back? Yeah, we're back. We'll do something like var, and then variable var in JavaScript specifically. Some languages use this keyword, some use specifics because we have different types of data. We have numbers, we have truth and falses, we have decimals, right? We have strings of words. Like this here in quotes is a string of characters. And a computer doesn't look at this as code. It uses this. Yeah, you made a Flappy Bird, dude. I did a Mathy Bird. What's up? Hold on. Hold on. This is actually for some of the students that I have. If you go to Super Scholar XYZ Train Your Brain / Train Your Brain, I have a little thing over here. Where's my Mathy Bird? There it is, Mathy Bird. I have a couple of people that have played. One of my students, Grant and Catherine. But then, huh, look at that. Yeah, yeah. All JavaScript, by the way. Literally what we're doing now. But what's the caveat? I'm a math teacher. You can't keep playing until you do the math. So, of course, you're gonna have a little bit of math involved. So I'm trying to promote my students to be a little more interactive with mathematics. Is this true or false? That's a good question. Nope. And I got a couple of others. In fact, if you, that's for like kind of like the basics of math, right? Just to kind of stir your brain a bit. But here's a couple of other ones that might be interesting to some for reading, speed reading trainer. I've played a lot of games in the past where you have to kind of like use your peripherals to find and read. So I made this program based on some of the games I played that basically you have to find the difference between two different words, and I'm doing it at the same time. Oh, nope, that I'm talking. Hold on, hold on. Where is it? Okay. All right, cool, 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 cool. Anyway, and you practice these, you kind of like train a part of your brain where it's like able to absorb information faster. And then word memory. What was this one about? Right. You type it in as you see it, and as you go higher and higher, it gets faster and faster. So basically, all of those like games that I played when it was free in the past, and then they got popular, and all of a sudden started putting it behind a paywall, I was like, well, I can make this. Lo siento. Um, anyway, all of this is JavaScript. All of these games are basically what we're doing now in the scripting space, right? So a little caveat. I'm just kind of tangenting because I do see someone speaking through Twitch. Very cool. But you made it for a school project. It's in the browser. Fair. You want to host it somewhere? There's a place. Sometimes you can host websites. I mean, you can send it to me. I'm down to see it. I'm always interested in people's code, right? But hey, Matthew Bird. Oh, and Tetris, but with math involved. So for every like pieces, you have to solve a math problem, right? Because we're here learning math, right? 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 So all of this took me like a couple of bit. I did cheat a little. Hey, you got your own domain. Sick. Oh, hello. Anyway, you got the idea. Trying to make it fun for my students to kind of play games, but also practice and train some math brainage cells and stuff. Back. Let's see. Okay. All right. All right.